Hi, I'm Sarah Fry. Welcome to PaTTAnpod. Today we are on location at HELIX, a conference dedicated to celebrating high expectations for students with low incidence disabilities. We are speaking with a number of practitioners, educators, and participants in the conference about their experience. And joining me all the way from Texas, we have two folks from the Texas Deafblind Project, Hilary Keys and Rachel Collins. Hi, welcome.
Hi. Thank you. Thanks for having us. Yeah, I'm glad we're here.
Me too. So I'm talking to several people. I think I've already spoken to one of your colleagues, Casey. Can you tell me about your role and maybe make some connections back to what Casey was speaking about? What do you do in Texas?
Well, I'm the early childhood consultant for the Texas Deafblind Project. So I work with kiddos or families of kiddos who are birth to 5 years old.
Awesome.
And I have a similar role with Casey, and I'm one of the Deafblind Education Consultants, and we travel around the state either doing presentations or we will meet with educational teams to help program for students who are deafblind in their classrooms.
Casey mentioned a number or a collection of resources that you all have been sharing at this year's HELIX conference. Are there any that you'd like to spotlight or highlight? We'll link the website on our show notes, but if there are things that you'd like to talk about, I'd love to hear.
Absolutely. Yes, we have a lot of different resources that are free, and we just wanted to highlight just some of them that are really helpful, I think, for different teams that are programming for their students who are deafblind. The first one I'd like to mention is the AERBVI, and that stands for Assessment of Deaf-Blind Access to Manual Language Systems. So basically what that assessment does is it looks at visual accommodations that are needed for a student to access sign language. And so this is really key when teachers of students who are visually impaired are doing their functional visions and their learning media assessments to figure out what accommodations need to be put into the report and into the IEP plan to make sure that the student is accessing that sign language material. The next one is the IFHE, the Informal Functional Hearing Evaluation. And this is an assessment that looks at how a student uses their hearing in the home, school, and community settings. This particular assessment is really helpful for students who may not be able to get a formal audiological report for whatever reason that may be. And so this really looks at just functionally how are they using their hearing in their environment. The next resource is determining the need for an intervener in educational settings. And this is, in this conference we were talking about interveners and how they are absolutely key in the role of students who are deafblind. They are the eyes and the ears, and they bridge that gap of distal information to the student who is deafblind. This document asks a series of consideration questions, and basically what it does is it determines if a student is having access to their instruction, how they're receiving that access, and who is providing that access. So this one's a really great tool for teams who are thinking maybe they might need an intervener for a student who's deafblind, or they already have an intervener and they're not really quite sure what the intervener needs to be doing in the classroom. The next one, this is one of our newer publications, and it's totally free download. It's the Guidance for Planning Behavior Instruction for Children and Young Adults who are deafblind or have visual or multiple impairments. It's a super, super long title, but it really, it's very specific to deafblind and multiple impairments, but really this is this is across the board for all people, for all humans. And this is really a way to highlight proactive strategies to use with students who are in distress. We want to shift the narrative of a student who's acting out, because they're just being naughty. We want to switch that narrative and say they are having a natural response to being distressed. And maybe in a situation where they feel fearful or not safe, and so those behaviors are coming out as distress, and that's a really good one. The next one is the IEP quality indicators for students who are deafblind. And this document is a way for ARD committees or IEP committees to look at their current IEP and to ensure that all of these specific areas for students who are deafblind are covered in those areas. And if not, how to make sure that they are placed in the IEP, or do we need additional training to be able to address those needs? And the last resource that I wanted to share is Sound Travels. Sound Travels is a collection of different materials, and this is really a collaboration between the COMS, or the Certified Orientation Mobility Specialist, as well as the audiologist, the clinical and the school audiologist, and the deaf and hard of hearing teachers. Sometimes we don't have access to the clinical audiologist, so it's really important to pull in, the school audiologist and the clinical audiologist to be able to program or map appropriate hearing devices for students so that they can utilize the sounds in their environment to safely travel in their environment. A lot of times those programs filter out all the extraneous noise to focus solely on speech. But when you are traveling out in the community, those sounds are really important. You need to know when a car is coming. You need to know if it's a car or a bus and how fast or how long you have to cross the street. You want to know if there's a water fountain, because that's where you turn right, all of those different kinds of things. And so the COMS and the audiologists and TDHHs, they typically don't really interact much with each other in the school setting, and this is a way for them to be able to come to the table and say, no, we need to collaborate, and so that way we can ensure safe travel in the environment. And so all of these resources that I mentioned here, and many, many more, are on our website, and so we will link those in the notes afterwards.
Wonderful. I feel like I was an audience member of a wonderful home shopping experience where everything is free, everybody gets everything. Yes. I love it. This is your first time at HELIX, right?
Yes.
Well, you came with a bag full of goodies to share out with other folks. I'm wondering what you're taking away from this experience, what maybe connections you found, or any sessions that really sparked more interest in your learning as you travel back to Texas this week.
Well, I really enjoyed a lot of the assistive technology sessions. There were a lot of great ideas that I can take back to teams, share with my colleagues that work with older students. And the keynote speaker really resonated with me, Rise and Thrive, and thinking about how we need to honor our students' stories. We need to be in touch with our own stories, but then we need to honor our students' stories with an open mind and without judgment, and be aware that they come from a different place than we do.
That's so interesting, especially that's something that stuck with you. Working in early childhood, you engage with young people, but also their families. From your perspective, in your role, what does that look like? Honoring a child's story while you're also engaging with their family. What's the relationship like there?
I think that it's about fostering a relationship of trust and making sure that when I walk into a situation, whether I'm in a classroom, an early childhood daycare, or in a family's home, that I make sure that I consciously take my biases, any biases that are unconscious, and consciously put them aside and come with no judgment, and allow those families to share whatever they need to share with me, so that then we can build a relationship, and through that trust we can create the best possible program for their student or for their child moving forward.
I love that, just even that visual of building that trust, communicating together, and then working together. So starting off with the trust and collaboration. Are there other things that you're taking back with you this week?
Yes, this is my first time coming to HELIX, and I didn't really know what to expect. And just reading the title of it, High Expectations for Low Incidence Disabilities, I was like, this is going to be the conference for us. And I am taking away this quote that I think that it's just resonating in my head. And it was something like, low numbers does not equate the importance of of providing quality services. And I was like, yes, that right there. And this is a lot of like what we do. We go out and we share all of these resources to utilize for students who are deafblind, because we believe that they are capable. We presume that competence, and this whole entire conference was dedicated to that, and I love that.
Well, we are so glad to have you all here. You are leaving from your first HELIX experience. We hope that you do spread the word as we trade resources across states. How will you describe HELIX to your colleagues back home? What surprised you, or how would you articulate your experience to them?
For me, it was a very meaningful experience. And I think I can take a lot of information back, and also is about making connections with other professionals and some of the families that are here.
And I agree. I really enjoyed making those connections with different professionals, and then just being in a space with all like-minded people who believe in the abilities of even our most complex access learners. So I really loved being here.
So you are first-time attendees at HELIX, but again, you've brought some resources to share. What did you happen to present on? I know that you were engaged with a number of participants this week.
Thank you for asking. I presented on active learning for students with complex access needs. It's an approach to learning designed for students who are birth to 48 months, developmentally regardless of their chronological age, and generally they have a visual impairment and additional issues, including maybe orthopedic concerns or cerebral palsy, or they're neurological, not neurotypical. And it is based on the idea that students need to move and be self-directed. It is a play-based approach, so it's very appropriate for our little ones who maybe don't have as many complex needs right now, but then our older teenagers, it can be adapted for them. And it is complete with, there's an assessment, there's an approach, strategies, and a complete approach to learning. And there are all kinds of resources online. We have a website dedicated just to active learning called activelearningspace.org altogether. And you can find out more about the approach, the philosophy, the principles of active learning, and get tons and tons of resources, including links to online courses that are available, and maybe you may get CEUs for them if your state takes them. So.
Thank you so much for traveling so far to share wonderful resources and hopefully building some new connections to collaborate with others. HELIX happens but once a year, but that doesn't mean that you have to miss out on all of the wonderful resources and opportunities associated with HELIX. There are links in our show notes to the materials that our friends from Texas brought to us, as well as links to the patent initiatives that can offer technical assistance and support across the Commonwealth year-round. So to our audience, we hope that you will check those out. You'll come back to another episode of PaTTANpod very soon. And of course, I need to thank John Ragsdale for making this episode happen.